All right, happy Friday. Welcome back to the JD, Baba, and BIDU updates. All right, a lot to update you on over the past week. So, since President Trump's taken office, he's had a call with President Xi Jinping. The call was reported as it went positive, right? There's a lot of talks. The biggest news this week is that there wasn't an initial executive order or any law being passed on additional tariffs or sanctions or anything like that on China. That was the big news, right? That was the news that I was waiting on to say, okay, what's the new administration stance? Obviously, they're going in and they're starting off on the right foot. They don't want to impose tariffs right off the bat. They did throw some dates out there. President Trump walked the dates back. They said, I heard a reporter asking him about February 1st. You mentioned there was going to be more tariffs on China. He said they're already being tariffed. So I think this opens the door for some more positive news between the two countries. Right? Again, before we get into this deep dive, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Right? This is not financial advice. This is for educational purposes only. Right, so if you watch my video from last week, if you haven't, go back and take a look at it. And I analyzed all three of these stocks. All right, the big front runner right now over the past week is JD. I'm using Webull. I'm not sponsored. All right, just like the layout of the app here. So let's look at the charts. Let's go to the 1 month. Right. So again, I said last week in my video, if you're shorting JD right now, it's dangerous. The stock is cheap. China just released more news on stimulus. They're ready and willing to pump more into the market, right? The big PBOC meeting is in March, but they have dropped stimulus over the past week. Positivity with the potential future relationship with the United States. So, right, my trend lines here blew right through my trend line. If you would have shorted, you would have been squeezed out right now. I firmly believe that's what's happening here. Right now, if you're looking for an entry point, look at the RSI right here. On the this is the 3 month, right? RSI is up there, right? So I do expect a consolidation next week, right? Unless there's more positive news, unless there's more stimulus announced. But now it's hard to break this momentum, right? Let's go look all the way back to the past year, right? Remember earlier in September, and I talked about it last video. I'm not going to do a whole breakdown again, but look what happened during the last stimulus news. That wasn't even off any type of metrics or anything. That was just stimulus. Stock ran up to $47. You're sitting at $40 right now. New administration came in. Seems like it's going positive right now, right? There could be developments every single day. It seems like President Putin, President Xi Jinping, and President Trump want to align and end this war in Ukraine. That's another hot topic in the news right now. So from a fundamental analysis perspective, if you caught this run up and you listened to my video last week, happy for you. It's a big 20 plus moving week right there. Lots of profits, right? But this is just the beginning, right? And I'm thinking to myself, where do we go from here? You zoom out to the 5-year, right? COVID, kind of an anomaly, but when you get the positive momentum, if this company comes out with positive earnings, they raise guidance, they buy back the stock, a stock that is this cheap right now, right? A company that's this cheap, trading at a P forward ratio of 11, 11, we'll call it, right? S&P 500 market average over its lifetime is 15. Is there more growth in China? That's to be seen, right? The numbers are still, they're not looking out of this world right now. Still coming out of this housing crisis, right? But if you remember back in the United States in 2008, if you kind of bought the bottom there in 2008, 2009, there was all this fear, double dip recession, so on and so forth. The government came in with stimulus, and it was off to the races. It was basically, we're still on that bull run. It's like a 14-year bull run, right? I'm not saying that can happen here. There's a lot of political events that can happen. But just from an analysis of JD, the company, right? Logistics, online e-commerce, it's still fairly valued right here. And I think it's fairly valued all the way up to about $60. I'm going to be paying close attention to the next earnings. Right, you gotta zoom in on the earnings call, and you gotta read between the lines. I'm gonna do a full analysis video when that time comes on JD, Baba, and Baidu, right? But my 1-year price target, it's very tough to predict these things in the weeks or the months ahead. but I do anticipate a year end above 60 for JD. What could change that is earnings, right? What could also change that is um, the political stances by both sides. All right. So what we do know is the PBOC is ready to inject more stimulus. The relationship seems to be getting off on a good start with the new United States administration. The company is below fair value, in my opinion. Right. Price to book of 1.8. Company should be growing. Right. If this company beats on earnings, double beats, top line, bottom line, right? What you're looking at here on the right side of the screen would then even be cheaper than we're analyzing right now, right? And the risks are, if that doesn't happen, the reverse could be true. Right? If the company comes in and doesn't beat earnings, doesn't beat EPS, lowers guidance, then these numbers that you could be looking at actually a forward PE ratio right now of 15. So we don't know. It's tough to speculate. It pays to be a long-term investor, right? If you listen to my video last week, you're sitting pretty right now. Now you have a buffer. Now you're sitting on some profits. Stock goes down 5% next week. All right, you're reanalyzing. You're not selling, right? As opposed to if you're buying right now, then you're down 5-10% next week, and you're scratching your head. What the hell did I do wrong? Right? You maybe just bought before consolidation. All right. So on the 5-day, it's basically been a rocket ship up. You're now fighting gamma momentum, right? Shorts are being forced to close out their position. Some are even getting margin called. A lot of folks were thinking the yen carry trade in Japan was going to affect the Asian markets, maybe expecting a sell-off today. But all of that news, right? The calming of all that news, the positive news coming out of the relationship with Xi Jinping and Trump caused basically a short squeeze today in all three of these stocks. So we're going to take a look at BABA next. But if you're in JD, fantastic. Expect a consolidation next week, maybe over the next few weeks. More stimulus is just going to send this up. A lot of folks who are even holding these for the long term, right, like a Michael Burry, I would assume that he's probably closed out some of his shorts at this point. Either closed them or executed them, right, and bought the stock. And that is what's driving up this this gamma squeeze. I could see a reconsolidation next week, maybe down to $37, right? Very possible. All right, so pay close attention to that. If you're getting in now, I still believe it's cheap. Would I wait for a pullback? It's completely up to you. My position's built out. It's been built out in the 2025 area, right, before the September run up, and I've just been patiently waiting, anticipating to see next earnings. So let's go take a look at Alibaba. All right, again, e-commerce company, trimming their balance sheet this week, selling off some pieces of the company that, basically trimming the fat, focusing on the bottom line, focusing on the balance sheet. Forward PE ratio just a bit higher than JD with 12.44. Price to book a little bit lower, right? Again, same thing with this company. The charts almost look virtually the same, so I'm not going to repeat the same things that I just said, but there's a lot of growth potential here, right? I'm not even going to look at what the analysts are saying because analysts have career risk, right? If they're, too high or too low, they could lose their jobs. So don't pay attention to the analysts. Don't pay attention to the news. You need to do your own research. You need to go look at the earnings report. You need to make your own forward-looking predictions, basically. Don't read into the statements, right? Same thing here. RSI is getting up there, right? If you got back in earlier this year, fantastic. Look at the big run up, went all the way up to 115. So do we got more room to run? Absolutely. Right. Sitting right here at 89, still a good area. We need to see next earnings. We need to see what happens with the stimulus, and we need to see what happens with this relationship between the two countries. The tariffs looks to be off the table right now. You're seeing the gamma squeeze. You're probably seeing some money starting to come in. If you have positive earnings, again, same thing goes like I said with JD. This forward PE ratio, right? Discounted cash flow, all of that could be incorrect if they double beat on earnings or raise guidance. The stock could actually be cheaper than what you're seeing right here. Same applies. This is what happens when you're a value investor and you buy companies that are cheap. Some consider this space, the Asian market in general, to be uninvestable. We'll see. Policy seems to be changing. The PBOC, they understand that there's a lot of folks out of work over there. Housing is in trouble. They need to support the financial markets. It's going to cause economic growth. It's going to cause the unemployment number to come down. So everything right now is kind of working in your favor. that's why you're seeing this positive gamma, right? And yeah, that's it. My outlook on BABA, I think the e-commerce sales are going to be strong. We'll see what happens in Europe. Europe's kind of going in a recession right now. Pay close attention. My position's built out. I don't think I'm going to be considering adding more at this time unless there's a multi-trillion-dollar stimulus package. But hey, pay close attention. If you're positioned in it already and you've been in it, good. If you're, your cost base is a little bit higher than this, I think you got nothing really to worry about. Pay close attention to the news. Wouldn't make any rash, So if we consolidate next week and we're down 5%, I think that'd be completely normal. The real telltale is going to be the next earnings and the forward-looking guidance. If this company does buybacks, adds a dividend, they already have a healthy balance sheet. So again, I think you're buying a valued company right here in BABA, e-commerce company, logistics company. All right, now lastly, let's look at BIDU. All right. So BIDU is kind of like the one that's beaten down out of these three. All right, folks don't know how the AI is going to play out. They do have working relationships with Tesla, Google, some other companies. So pay close attention to BIDU. All right, the space is growing. I think we're just way oversold. In terms of forward PE ratio, this one is by far the cheapest. You're even getting it for cheaper than the book value of the company. They have a ton of cash on the balance sheet, right? And we'll do a deep dive when they announce earnings. Maybe I'll even do one before earnings. But again, you're buying a company for basically cheaper than it's worth. Again, that's the principles of a value investor. The fair value of this thing, seen a report come out today, and in the 130s. Again, be careful what you read. These companies usually have a vested interest. They have call options. They own the stock. Maybe convertible bonds. So you got to do your own analysis. The risks I see with BIDU are the same as JD and Bob. I think it's just political risks at this point. These companies are trading at fair values. If you see the continued stimulus, and you get the folks that live in China, live in those Asian markets to want to invest back in these companies. What's going to happen here is momentum trickles on itself. It's like a snowball, right? Stocks going down over the past 4 years. Nobody wants to own it. Everybody's selling it from the peak in COVID 2021. Everybody's losing money. Fear, right? And now you're seeing some positive news. The balance sheet makes sense. The political alignments seem to be coming together. The PBOC is pumping stimulus into the economy. You're building a strong base down here at this, $75 to $85 level. They come out with positive earnings. They beat. Even if they don't beat, they just raise guidance. You could be waking up that morning to a plus 15% day, and then it's off to the races. And then you kind of, quote unquote, miss the boat. So you got to pay close attention to these. Right. Still early, I believe, to get in, but go back and watch the video I posted last week on these stocks. Again, I fully am aware that this week could have went totally different. The call with Xi Jinping could have went south. President Trump could have enacted tariffs right off the bat. Right. That didn't happen. All right. And that's why you're seeing the big pop this week in these three stocks. All right. If you're a long-term investor, you got to stay positive. You got to think about the balance sheet of the company. You got to think about the future growth, right? And now that some of those obstacles are out of the way, you're seeing big money flow back in, right? So you're seeing Wall Street, you're seeing retail, you're seeing shorts covering, you're seeing folks buying. So you got positive gamma. You got some tailwinds now, basically. That could be derailed at any moment, but pay close attention. Tune into the videos before these companies report earnings. We'll do a deep dive analysis on each one of them. We'll go over predictions, assessments, future outlook. But my 1 year price target is JD above 60, BABA above 130, and BIDU above 130 as well. So 12 months. So end of next January, that is where I'm looking forward to. Those are my price targets. Again, long-term capital gains in the country I live in are a lot better to take than short-term capital gains. So there's going to be some volatility. Strap in, right? Next week, expect a consolidation. But if you're in it, good luck to you. I hope you all make a couple bucks. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit that like button and subscribe, and stay tuned for some more videos.